Hey now, today we're going to take a look at this really cool toy spaceship. No, actually, this is a game, believe it or not. This is Firefly Yahtzee. This is actually a depiction of the ship from Firefly and Serenity. I guess it's called the Serenity, right? I'm not a big Firefly fan. Full upfront disclosure. But actually, what you can do is pop this off, and this doubles as a Yahtzee cup. And you've got all these cool dice that are in here. Well, 5 of them to be exact, with little characters from the show, because I guess in the show, everyone speaks Chinese, and all the writing is in Chinese. But, you know, Yahtzee. Yeah, I guess it's kind of surprising that I would actually review Yahtzee at this point. Yahtzee is a classic board game, one of those like staple games that every family owned at some point in their lives, at least if you live in the United States. And so many other games that I've played in this very short time I've been into modern board gaming have been based off of what we call the Yahtzee mechanic. You think of King of Tokyo, you think of newer games like Run, Fight, or Die. They all use some variation of the Yahtzee mechanic where you roll dice 3 times, keep the ones you like each time, and then keep rolling. Now, does the classic hold up to all these new games that have come out in its wake? And what about the Firefly Yahtzee version in particular? Is it good for either board gaming fans or for fans of Firefly? Well, let's go ahead and take a quick look at how Yahtzee is played, just in case you don't know. Then we're going to come back and I'll give you my final thoughts.
I don't care, I'm still free. You can't take the sky from me. Take me out to the black. Tell them I ain't coming back.
Okay, I'm going to give you a brief run through of Yahtzee, the Firefly edition. Now, let me just say this up front. If you're very familiar with Yahtzee and you've played it before, or if you've already made up your mind about it, there's no reason for you to watch the overview part of this video because all the Yahtzee rules are exactly the same. The difference is this is the container that the dice come into, and you pop this off, and all the dice are inside, and you can use this as your Yahtzee cup. But one thing I'll say here, this isn't a big deal, but the dice actually kind of have a tendency to get stuck inside of here. They don't always fall out quite perfectly. So it's actually, we found that at a certain point we were trying to use the Serenity here to roll the dice because it just seemed cooler, but at a certain point we just started rolling the dice normally. So keep that in mind as we go through this. I'll just keep the mutilated ship right there. So how Yahtzee works, you're going to have a score pad here. Every player is going to get one of these score pads. And you have the 5 dice, and those are normal 6-sided dice despite how they look. These just, to keep it thematic, they're actually Chinese characters because I guess everyone in the future of the Firefly universe speaks Chinese or can speak Chinese. That's like the main language, which kind of makes sense actually. So you have a score sheet, and on the score sheet, let me see if I can show you this here. You have an upper section and a lower section. The text is like abysmally small. But essentially, there's a lot of different ways to score these dice on here. Like in the upper section, it's all about all the individual numbers. So that you have spots for 1 through 6. And then you get a bonus if your points are 63 or above, which gets you 35. And then you'll add up your total score here at the end of the game. The lower section is all about essentially poker. So 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, full house. You have spots for a small straight, a large straight, and Yahtzee, of course. Yahtzee is getting 5 of a kind. So I'm kind of skipping ahead to the scoring, but how this game works is that each player on their turn is going to take all 5 dice, and however you want to roll them, whether it's through the ship or another type of Yahtzee apparatus, you just roll them and see what you get. Then you decide whether or not you're going to keep some of the dice and then roll some of the other ones, or re-roll all of them. The Yahtzee mechanic as it is, and this has been re-implemented in a lot of different games, is that you have essentially a total of 3 rolls. After each roll, you decide what you're keeping and what you're re-rolling, and you can change your mind after the first and second roll, but after the third roll, you are locked in on whatever you have, and there's no way to mitigate that in this game. This is just straight up dice rolling, trying to get the numbers that you need. Every turn that you roll the dice, you must fill in something on your score sheet if you can. So for instance, let's say at the end of 3 rolls, I've got 2 3s, a 2, 3, and then a 5. All right, so that's my roll. I have 3 3s, a 2, and a 5. I got to fill in something. So right now I have a fresh, clean virgin sheet here. So I should probably do something with those 3s, right? Now I can score at the top and just do 3 3s, which would get me 9 points. Or I could go for 3 of a kind on the bottom. And 3 of a kind, you're still scoring all of the dice, so that's still going to be 9 points. But maybe I want to go for the top and start working towards getting that 63. Now also, since I have... now, if this wasn't my last roll, let's say that was just my first roll. Well, now I can start going for some different things. I have 3 threes. Well, maybe I'll go for a full house and get a set of 3 and a set of 2. But now it's kind of random, and I've only got a 2 and a 5 to work with, so I maybe decide to roll both of those and see what happens, and so on. That's kind of how the game works. You try to make the best of what you have, knowing that you have to write something down. If you can't score any points on your turn, you have to fill a 0 into one of the spots, and the game ends when everyone has filled in every spot of their sheet. So it kind of escalates because you're either going to write a 0 or you're going to get points. I think I said that Yahtzee was already 5 of a kind, but also if you already have scored one Yahtzee, for scoring a Yahtzee, you just get a 50-point. I'm sorry, it's a 50-point bonus. If you score other Yahtzees after that, you get Yahtzee bonuses, which I think are 100-point bonuses. But that's incredibly rare. It's very, very difficult to get a Yahtzee. So basically, you're just trying to mitigate your luck. You also have a chance space. A chance space is like if you don't want to write a 0 down, or you've already filled up all the other spaces, you can just score all your dice. Doesn't matter what the numbers are. You just score all of them, but you can only do that once per game because you only have one spot for it. That's really the game. I mean, you're just going to keep going like that until everyone's filled in every spot and scoring the points. However, it tells you to score them on the score pad. Whoever has the most points is the winner. And that is Yahtzee and Yahtzee Firefly in a nutshell. Let's get to my final thoughts. So here's the thing. As I said in the beginning, I'm not actually a fan of Firefly. It seemed like a decent enough show, but there's so many other good shows that actually did not get canceled in their first season that I've never really wanted to go back and revisit that one. I've had no less than 2 ex-girlfriends talk me into watching a couple episodes of the show, and I was just okay with it. But who knows? Maybe it's fantastic. I'm not really going to judge it. But what I'm trying to figure out here, and as I was thinking through the Firefly Yahtzee edition, or Yahtzee Firefly edition, was whether or not this would be a good present for someone who likes Firefly. Maybe they don't even like board games that much. And I'm actually going to say yes on this one, because this thing is super cool. I mean, this in and of itself, you could put this on a shelf and it would just look great. You probably can't see that from the camera, but it would just look great on any Firefly or Serenity fan's shelf. So, and it's fairly inexpensive. And at the same time, it's not just a model you can put on your shelf. It's a game too. So, but I'm a board game reviewer, so I have to talk about the game in particular. So while the spaceship looks really cool, and while the dice actually look cool too with the Chinese characters on them, it's the box that this game comes in is terrible. It's one of those like clamshell boxes, and you have to keep the rules and the notepad separate, so that's kind of bad. All in all, the ship is very cool, but I have to talk about the game. And the game is Yahtzee. And it's a classic board game. A lot of people grew up with it and either love it or hate it at this point. I actually think, and I probably played Yahtzee when I was younger, but it's been a very, very long time since that happened. I barely remembered it. I actually think it's an okay game. Compared to so many other classic games that I have revisited being an adult, like Original Risk or Monopoly or even Scrabble, those games to me don't hold up at all, and I cannot see the appeal. I can see the appeal of Yahtzee in and of itself. The issue for me is that I've played so many other games that seem to be based off of that mechanic. I mentioned King of Tokyo and Run, Fight, or Die, and even the newest Pandemic the Cure isn't quite Yahtzee mechanic style because you don't roll 3 times, but it's still the same idea of rolling dice multiple times and keeping the ones you like. Having played all of those, there isn't a reason for me to revisit Yahtzee. It's just been improved upon. And there are definitely some clunky things about it. First and foremost, in the rules as written, you just have to continue to play until everyone has filled in one of their circles. Now, you can fill in a circle with a 0, and if you can't do anything else, then you can do that. But even so, I mean, I think there should probably be some sort of point threshold or something. The game goes on way longer than it should. For such a light game, we're supposed to be a light game. And I think this is like a common problem that a lot of classic games have because most people needed to fill as much time as possible when they were playing games 20, 30, 40 years ago. I don't know how old Yahtzee is actually, but it was okay spending an hour on a very light dice game because what else were you going to do? Which probably sounds very first world problem-ish of me, or maybe just like I'm such a child of the modern generation, but that's how I feel about it. At the same time, it lacks any kind of player interaction whatsoever. None. Zero. The only kind of player interaction you can bring to the game is if you kind of like egg people on and say, no, go for it. Or, the game can go on so long that if you just want it to end, you start saying things like, well, you start actually coaching people and giving them strategy. And I've found that there's other types of dice games I've played in the past year or so that have the same kind of thing where it's, you just want it to end, so you're going to help people as much as possible to get to a conclusion. And that's kind of unfortunate. And, I say too much. There are some good things here. The Yahtzee mechanic is solid. There's a reason that so many other games have used it, because it's fun to take a chance and push your luck. That whole push your luck mechanic as a whole is great. And it's fun to try and get the different stats and figure out. There's some strategy involved as to whether or not, let's say you roll 4 6s. Well, do you go for the 4 of a kind, or do you fill in your top box with the 6s? No, you're not going to get as many points, but you can go for the upper section and try to get that point bonus. So there is some strategy there. And trying to figure out, do I go for the chance now, but I could probably get a better total later. But if I don't take the chance, since I didn't get anything really good with this, I might just have to score the 1s for this. Or I might have to score the 3s, but I only have 2 3s. Wouldn't it be better if I wait and possibly get a better, maybe 4 or 5 3s at a later date? That's actually more interesting than it sounds as I'm saying it. I actually liked that part of it quite a bit. And when it is your turn and when you're into the thick of it, it's fun. When you're waiting for other people to take their turn and when you realize that the game is just going to go on and on, that's where the problem comes in. So Yahtzee in and of itself, I've kind of moved on from, and I'm sure that most people that are watching this have as well. But for those of you who are watching this because you like Firefly, or you know someone in your life who really likes Firefly, I would urge you to find a copy of this, see how much it is, and see if it's not like a really cool present to give to that person in your life or to yourself. Because it does look really cool. I mean, again, I can't emphasize enough how cool the spaceship looks and how much, maybe it's not the most intricate and highest quality thing, but to me it looks really cool. And there's a game that goes along with it. So even if you were going to spend the money just to get someone a really cool piece of Firefly memorabilia, hey, at least you get a pretty decent game with it as well. So in that regard, I would actually recommend it. Or there's other variations of Yahtzee, like Doctor Who Yahtzee, which also looks really cool because it looks like one of those Daleks. So there is something to be said for that. And I think it elevates it above its other classic board game brethren, that they actually make it look good, and the game is decent enough. Although if you get this and you haven't played these types of games before and you kind of like some of the things about Yahtzee, I would urge you to check out some of those games that took that base mechanic and improved upon it greatly. But for what it's worth, that is the Yahtzee Firefly edition from USAopoly.